What's up everyone, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and it's time for a review of the 6th album by the British deathcore turned metalcore turned pop rock and alternative band Bring Me the Horizon. This one is simply titled Amo, which is essentially love in one form or another, and this is their first album since 2015, and I've been excited for this, I'm not gonna lie. I see you out there spying on my shirt, don't think I didn't notice. Yes, it's a Bring Me the Horizon shirt, and yes, you can get your own at officialbandshirts.com. They hooked me up with this shirt and several other shirts, a couple of other little goodies. If you're into Bring Me the Horizon or really any band, they've got hundreds of officially licensed shirts and other styles of merch. Go check them out and use my code ARTV20 for 20% off an entire order. The rollout for the release of Amo has been slightly confusing because we got Mantra as the lead single, but immediately after we get that channel-on-worthy track, we see Jordan and Ollie Sykes going out doing the interview circuit saying, "This is not representative of our sound." And while I do feel like that's a good single, it's also a bit generic. I liked it more at first, but it definitely echoes the sound of That's the Spirit quite closely. And then we got Wonderful Life featuring Dani freaking Filth from Cradle of Filth. A heavy song, one that was originally written with Limp Bizkit in mind, and you know what? If Fred Durst calls you up, you take that call and you say, "Yes, Fred, we will absolutely do that collab." Old Freddy Boy never came through on the collab, and instead Bring Me the Horizon kept the track for themselves, and that definitely is a kind of menacing one. Definitely some cringy lines on there, like the "I got bounce" part. It's something that was a little bit out there, but I still enjoyed the song. It has a catchy, kind of heavy loop of the guitar and also the vocals during the chorus I found myself gravitating towards, but I was very confused because still, these are two very heavy songs, or not extremely heavy, I suppose, two rock-oriented songs to kick off the album cycle, and they're still saying, "This is not representative of the album." Well, what's coming? Oh, there it is. The medicine ball drops straight on our faces because Medicine is the full-on, unabashed pop song that just really went for it. It has some interesting lyrics. I do like the "some people are a lot like clouds, you know, because life is better when they go." I know those type of people. I can relate. Describing the sound of this record is very difficult because the needle is kind of jumping all over the record on this one. We see Mantra, and then we see Medicine, and then you've got Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea versus something like Fresh Bruises, and you really don't know what to make of it. But once you sit down and give this a couple of full spins, I think it starts to come together. It's not necessarily the most cohesive work out there, but the way that they patch things up and the way that some of the tracks do flow into each other, it grows on you for sure. There was a clear conscious effort by the band to bring in orchestral elements, to bring in something new to their sound, to have these sweeping electronic feelings, and to also have something very dark and tense. They did a good job at creating atmospheres on this new album, Amo. While the guitars might take a bit of a backseat, don't think that they're not here because there's some chomping bass on some of the cuts, and also there's a nice guitar solo on the final track on the album. There's other moments where it does get kind of choppy, it gets thrown back in the mix, it riffs a little bit more, and I'm okay with that, to be quite honest. I like the experimentation that I'm seeing here. They do push their sonic boundaries, and while it definitely falls a little bit harder on its face in some places, there's more wins than losses here. When a band experiments or else goes more in a pop-friendly direction, it often divides people, but I can give props where props are due to a band that can actually stick to their guns and go through with the change. If they're going to make the change, don't just kind of dip your toe into the water like so many are doing. At least have the guts to go through with it, and Bring Me the Horizon, if nothing else, commit to themselves on this record. It's not all rainbows and butterflies here though, because there's plenty of criticisms that I do have. There's too many falsetto vocals that seemingly pop up just to add a certain new edge to a track, or maybe the lyrics get a bit cringeworthy here and there. Heavy metal has a few lines that I really cannot stand. I physically cringed, almost kind of face-palmed at, and that happens a few times, but it's not a super obvious occurrence, like it's not always happening. I'm often focusing on the music, but some of these tracks, they do run on a bit too long. It's like a run-on sentence, and you want to cut them off and you're like, that could have been a little bit better, but the repetition kind of killed it a little bit towards the end. Another issue that was relatively small, I suppose, but still worth noting, was the amount of electronic interludes here. It opens up on I Apologise If You Feel Something. There are vocals in there, but they're heavily processed the majority of the time. You really can't tell that they're Ollie Sykes except for a small little snippet. And it's all well and good, but like the band said, they just kind of created this as an opener to Mantra, and once you get to that, it's like, these songs don't really feel connected at all, and it feels like I just wasted a minute and a half. And then you get through some of the other cuts, like Fresh Bruises, and I just don't think I would come back to these in the future, especially with repeated plays through the album. They do feel a bit repetitive, and I can commend them on the fact that they took inspiration from people like the Chemical Brothers, it seems. A little bit of big beat, a little bit of UK 90s dance and club music, electronic trance stuff, and that's fine. I do like the way that they work it into the patterns of some of these tracks, but the interludes don't exactly grab me. Ollie Sykes is once again married at this point, so it makes sense that throughout this track listing there are some more love songs like Mother Tongue, which feels a little bit cheap to me. I like the hook, but there's places where I just feel like it's building up to this kind of top 40 style drop or some sort of energy there, and it doesn't necessarily flow or work. I feel like a lot of the album, while it is pop styled in many places, it didn't necessarily have the penmanship of a pop record. It wasn't always pop friendly, and I like that. It's a little bit rough around the edges, despite the fact that it is cleaned up with the sound, the production, everything like that. Mother Tongue is one of those tracks that takes love on directly in a positive light, but there's also plenty of negative songs here, like Ouch, which, oh my god, that one goes for it. Ollie went through a divorce with his former wife, Hannah, and that was a big, messy breakup. And here on this one, he's talking about, I said I would follow you through hell, a callback to their own song, Follow You, but I didn't know that you would fuck the devil. My god, that's putting it out there. In the Dark is another pivot towards that direction. He's in full-on call-out mode there. And I wouldn't think that I would like the guitars as much as I do. It's pretty much playing this looping chord progression, which you might hear in a pop song, but it really is effective here, especially with the drums that do take off a little bit more. It has kind of this sultry, searing vibe to it, and the lyrics here are extremely catchy and also potent once you get to know the story behind it. There's kind of an annoying musicality to heavy metal, which features former Roots member Rahzel on beatbox, which sounds sick, but there's kind of this almost, I think it's a guitar, kind of going back and forth like wee-oo, wee-oo. It sounds like an ambulance passing you on the highway. I like that song overall, and I agree with the message. Ollie is kind of head on talking about the fans that are talking about on Instagram, other social media, that I'm not behind this shit because the new Bring Me the Horizon isn't heavy metal, and they've sold out, they've changed. I'm sure they're all sick of seeing it and hearing it at this point. They have moved on, but also I do like that Ollie gave a little bit of a glimpse into saying, I'm scared of losing you, so it makes it feel a little bit more human. If you're looking for heavier leaning tracks on this album that you might connect to start off with, then yes, I would recommend heavy metal. That's a good one. Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea, which spell out the acronym there. It really was a green light that went off in my head when I started putting it together. Sugar, Honey, Ice, and Tea. Yeah, I saw Madagascar. Obviously, Mantra and Wonderful Life are other good points if you're looking for heavier leaning songs, but I want to get to the more interesting stuff. Let's talk about some of the tracks that dare to experiment and actually pull it off quite well. Art pop and experimental singer Grimes pops up in the feature list on Nihilist Blues, which is a dark, tense song with some brooding EDM elements. There's kind of like a racing sensation that you get when those synthesizers start to kind of boil over almost, and it's such a good feeling. As the listener, this is a song that rewards you the more closely you pay attention, and I do feel like Grimes sounds nice with Ollie, and I'm glad that this wasn't just a little 20-second snippet or something where she kind of phones it in. This is a track that you can tell that she was passionate about, and nihilism, of course, being so jaded on life, seeing no point to life at all, why do we exist, having this existential crisis. This is all contained in this 5-minute song, and it's one of the longer songs that actually is totally worth the runtime. An orchestral symphony is brought in on the closing moment, I Don't Know What to Say, which Ollie penned for a childhood friend that hadn't yet passed away at the time of recording and writing this song, but he did unfortunately end up losing his battle with cancer. It's a very tragic story, one that honestly got to me a little bit when once I started realizing the power behind the lyrics and what Oliver was saying. But on this track, they really did a commendable job at bringing in the right people to work on the song. There's a touch of horns, there's also some strings that pop up, and then the guitar solo, which is so tasteful. Hats off to Lee on that one. A fantastic cut, and even though I would probably trim off the last minute or so of the song as it just kind of fades into oblivion, I also understand it in the context of the record. Why You Gotta Kick Me When I'm Down is a little bit rough for me because it does feature some rapping almost, some sing-talking, and kind of a dark, brooding vibe, a little bit of a rattling trap appeal to the percussion there, which I don't care for. I never understand when bands have such talented drummers, why are you going to underutilize them? Why are you going to undermine them and just throw on a processed computer beat? It makes no sense to me. But the hook here, it is actually quite nice. Oliver seems to really allow himself to step outside of the box. I felt like he was a little bit too processed for much of the record, but this song in particular, it feels like he's angry and I can actually feel the heat. Bring Me the Horizon set out to make an album that challenged not only themselves but also their listeners, and I do feel like they accomplished both of those things. It's a record that's going to be divisive, it's going to get the people talking, sure, but that's good talk because we can talk about what a band can do, what they're capable of, and how they can expand properly. This is definitely a lot better than some of the other steps towards pop that I've seen, and it's probably not pop in the way that you're thinking. Overall, for me, this is a 3.5 out of 5 for the new Bring Me the Horizon album, Amo. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and of course, if you haven't heard it, there is a link to stream it in the description. I appreciate you tuning into my review. Don't forget to visit officialbandshirts.com and use my promo code for 20% off of your order. You can get a shirt like this, and other than that, you can see another Bring Me the Horizon review right here, a top 10 Bring Me the Horizon songs right here, socials in the description. You can support me on Patreon if you'd like to at the top link down below, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.